Assalamu alaikum ji, welcome back to an episode of Kahe, Kazi. My guest today was Annum Salman. Annum Salman is a writer. She's a published author, a book called Sense Me. She's also employed in the PR industry in Karachi in Pakistan. We get to speaking about mental health, about the women empowerment narrative, about PR as an industry, about authenticity on social media, across platforms, on writing, the legitimacy or lack thereof that is associated to it in Pakistan, about suicide and the taboos around having conversations about it, about help and seeking it, about therapy and going to it, and about being soft in the face of misunderstanding. Enjoy. 3, 2, 1. Annum Salman, how you doing, Annum?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Kazi?
Fantastic. So you wrote a book.
Yes, I
and,
did.
and I have it here. This, or just by chance, I happen to have it here. Pertinent, very powerful. I've read through some of it. Obviously, I have not read through all of it. You didn't give me enough time.
Sorry about that.
it's a lot. So let's have you introduce yourself. Currently employed in the PR sector.
Yeah.
So I didn't say this before the podcast. If there's anything that I ask you about and you're not at liberty to say, just be like, I'm not at liberty to say.
Sure.
Because I just talk, right?
That's fine.
So let's start with what you're doing right now and let's track backwards towards the book and writing and stuff. So what are you doing right now?
So right now, I'm a creative head at a PR firm.
Cool.
And my daily life is just a lot of writing, but it's not very fun writing.
No,
it's a lot
it's
of
the other kind.
Yeah, it's the other kind. It's professional writing, but it's sort of where I make my money from. You can say that. You know, everybody needs
Money's
that one
important,
thing
yeah.
that's sort of giving them the financial income. So I'm doing that, and part-time मैंने जो है ये अपना writing continue किया है. I think I'll go crazy if I don't do it.
Sure.
So I sort of still do the poetry bit. Obviously, since like the pandemic happened, it's been a lot of live sessions and the really annoying bits where I have to force myself to like just go online and talk to people and sort of like just talk about things because ये बहुत कम होता है. This person to face-to-face type thing. So it's sort of like, you know, I've created this identity for myself as an author, and the last few years I've been building that so that, you know, I've been part of events, I've been doing workshops of my own, so I do lots of poetry workshops at least once a year. And and I've been part of this Commonwealth Entrepreneur Forum as well. That's with Pine, which is kind of this incubation. And sometimes they have events and I join them, being a panel speaker and stuff like that.
Awesome.
जो भी chance मिलता है कहीं पे भी to show my face, I do that because...
You have to now.
Yeah.
If you're out of sight, you know.
Yeah, out of mind.
Yeah, what are you going to do? And that's beautiful. Let's take a step back and... so where did you go to school? You went to school here?
Yeah, I went to school in Karachi, in CAS.
CAS.
Yes, and then I went to Nixer.
And you went to Nixer.
Yeah.
CAS का मुझे कुछ नहीं पता. Nixer, I also went to Nixer. What was that experience like compared to the more traditional, the more legacy schools? Nixer was very different.
Nixer was... I didn't have the greatest experience at
Alright,
Nixer,
why?
so like I'm not a very big fan of Nixer.
No, why? What happened?
But just it was too patriotic जैसे होता है ना कोई country का बहुत ज़्यादा बस हर वक्त shark. I was like भाई क्या हो गया?
Hostile
relax.
positivity थी.
Yeah, and I think that was also those years of my teenage life where I just wasn't too happy. You know, that बहुत सा drama रहा था मेरी ज़िंदगी के अंदर, and now I look back and I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Always so upset about something or the other that just doesn't matter anymore. But I think it's that phase in your life where college applications are happening, your first relationship is happening, you know.
Yeah.
So there are lots of different kind of experiences, and you're moving out of the country, maybe you're losing friends as well. So there's a lot of change that's happening in your life when you're at that, you know, age and in that phase. So it wasn't the best of time. I don't remember that. School was amazing though.
CS is amazing.
Yeah, CS was amazing. Before that I was in what's now Huck Academy. I was Mrs. Huck's at that time.
Yeah,
and both those schools were just great at like I think I grew so much with them, you know.
Miss Almas hoti thi CS mein.
Yes,
obviously,
yeah.
right? Yeah, brilliant, just a brilliant system. That also, then you graduated from Nixer. You did all right in A levels?
Yeah, I was a good student always.
Of course. So you did all right. You
Yeah.
did great, and then you went to university where?
Lim Kok Kran University
Which is-
in Malaysia.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
And then from there you went on to do a master's as well.
Yeah, so basically I came back to Pakistan. I joined the PR firm that I'm in right now.
Okay.
But at that time it was Golan, which was a multinational PR firm.
And now it's-
my boss was like, I'm creating my own startup, come with me. So I joined her. And then I left that firm to do my master's. Came back, joined them again.
That's beautiful. And it's beautiful that they took you back. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. What's the firm now called? That's wonderful, right? And so you do your master's in what?
So I did my master's in creative writing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, from University of Surrey. It was a dream. Like
Yeah.
I was sort of like I always wanted to do my bachelor's in creative writing as well. उस वक्त थोड़ा सा गुज़रा कि I was having financial issues
Sahi.
and sort of could not go to Canada and UK.
Sure.
Got into places, couldn't go.
No.
And then Malaysia was the easiest option.
Sure.
And there was a course called professional communication, and I was like, you know what? इसकी option कहता है future career author, so I was like, I'm going to take
ये
it.
वाला ये वाला चाहिए.
But that kind of worked out for me because that introduced me to PR for the first time. And that's when I fell in love with PR itself. And I was like, okay, this is something I'm good at too. So it worked, yeah.
क्यों है ना मेरे ख्याल में ना ये जो जल्दी होती है ना to become a graduate. I think the whole concept is a misnomer because a graduate doesn't mean anything. Right? Especially when you do your honors. That's all I've done is my honors, right?
Yeah.
Or your bachelor's, especially when you do your bachelor's. The bachelor's degree is designed to have you explore everything. तो हम जो समझते हैं ना कि bachelor's के बाद you should have everything figured out. Dude, please.
And that's what happens in the US, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah,
Like, you go, you're undecided
Yeah,
for a couple of
yeah.
years and then you choose your major,
Yeah.
which I think is amazing because then
Beautiful.
you really need to
Beautiful.
get to figure out who you are, you know. And there's so many people who were studying with me who were like, बस यार उठा लिया course, but don't really know, like, if you're into it and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really sad because you're wasting 3 years of your life studying something that you're not even interested in.
Yeah.
So it's a waste of like opportunity.
Like वही वाली बात है ना कि it's not even that just that they're not interested. It's that they've been told कि भाई ये तो आपने करना है. Maths तो करना है. Accounts तो करना है. क्यों करना है भाई accounts? Like for instance you or even me to some degree. मैंने काफी सारी accounts की थी. मैंने काफी सारी economics भी की थी.
नफरत है मेरे numbers से. I
जी
can't
जाहिर
stand
है.
it.
मुझे भी है. आप सोचिए मैं क्यों अपने आप को अजियत दे रहा था.
Yeah.
लेकिन because I was told that if you don't, unless there's a lesser degree of legitimacy attached to stuff like writing or communication. In Malaysia, I
Definitely.
studied diasporic literature.
You were in Malaysia too?
Yeah.
Hey, wow.
Me and my sister, we studied in Monash, na?
Oh, right.
So we studied diasporic literature, post-colonial literature. हमने, मतलब, I don't think we were quite bad in that we did economics. Sure, we studied economics. But because we liked it. Like uske alawa we did all this literature stuff and lots of communication. Lots of fun. Alhamdulillah. But so in all of this, so you did your master's, you came back, you joined your PR firm, which is brilliant. And we'll get to like what that entails in a minute. But where did you write the book then?
So I did this right after I completed my master's in creative writing.
ठीक है.
So I was in the UK at that time only, and it was sort of like those months between graduation until your visa expires.
Sure.
जिसमें मैं 100 application भेजती थी हर रोज to a firm to hire me. And between that, it was sort of like, man, like I have these few months, and my goal eventually was that as soon as I do my, complete my master's, I should have something that says that अच्छा यार इतना सीखा अब इसके बारे में अब कुछ लिखा. So those few months, I think it took me about 2 months to compile the book, and it was a very whimsical decision. I sort of just sent an email to the first few names that came on Google, and it was self-published firm. So it was a self-publishing firm basically that I approached, and because poetry इतनी traditionally published होती नहीं है. And I approached them. They gave me a call the next day. They were like, "Acha, like started talking to me about it." They were like, "Okay, why don't you make a transaction, and let's do it in batches, so you can do it in 3 installments, and let's get started on this." And just literally on that phone call, I was like, "Okay, I'm signing up for this. There's no backing out now." And I think that was good for me because I'm an overthinker, so I take very long. Like if I'm like I kind of doubt myself. So at that point, I was like, this is it. Like,
but you're a woman from Pakistan. You're taught to doubt yourself.
It comes with us naturally, right?
मतलब and I don't mean to say कि मर्दों के साथ नहीं होता है. मर्दों के साथ भी काफी होता है. But if you're so I'm assuming you're round about my age. So we're
I
millennials.
don't know how
हाँ.
old you are, but
मतलब बस हाँ ठीक है assume कर लिया ना मैं देखो बस millennials है ना तो you're a millennial right so millennials and I've said this okay now I've said it the past 5 podcasts पे तो मैं बोल चुका हूँ ये कि the millennials in Pakistan are so taken by parental messages and societal imperatives कि we're never going to be enough. So we're always
honestly,
going to doubt
like
ourselves.
I actually wrote a poem called, about being not enough because
है इसमें
इसमें तो शायद नहीं है.
पढ़ते हैं अभी हम
So there's either the being too much
Yes.
or being the not enough.
Yeah.
That is, these are basically two things that are being told to women continuously
Yeah.
all their lives.
And both of them are wrong by the way.
And
Too much
both
is also
of-
wrong.
Too much is also matlab, too much matlab kya? I don't understand what too much is. Like you mean too much in emotions, you mean too much in presence.
but
Like
too much
what does that mean,
It
right?
means nothing.
Yeah, and it's just like, or you just not capable of like
Or
doing
you're
something.
nothing.
Yeah, and but writing kind of changes that because like in where I was studying in my creative writing courses, even in PR, there are more women. Classmen, there were more girls.
Interesting.
Even though like they say male authors are considered more legitimate, and you pick up a book by a male author, you always
ये कौन
feel
बोलता
like हमारी generally writing community के अंदर काफी famous है.
अच्छा.
Yeah, that male author की आवाज different है. He'll be more knowledgeable, and that was something that we also learned when we were like studying. We were like, oh really? There's actually sexism in this as well. Like as a reader, a guy would probably not pick up a book by a female author than a male author. So that's also something that's been, studied, and it just comes with. But I just feel like that sort of gave me that freedom to be able to go like, I'm good at this, and doesn't matter if I'm a woman because itni sari hain mere around.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. And and I think just being able to express that in so many ways, given that opportunity to do that, was just.
Alhamdulillah. It's a
mashallah,
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
It
thing.
was good.
So my degree in Canada was also writing. So
Okay,
I studied
cool.
writing and philosophy, right? तो अब क्या है कि क्योंकि double majors हैं, तो philosophy में there'd be these huge halls, mix ratio 50-50. मतलब there's all sorts of men and women, everything, right? सब सही है, chilling है, all kinds of people. अब क्योंकि philosophy है, ठीक है, बैठे हुए हो. Writing में मेरे साथ भी यही होता था. In most writing classes, I was one of 3 men, and there were about 19 women.
Yeah.
Right? And उसमें मैंने पहली बार, so I suppose the misogyny, so when I was younger, it wasn't latent at all. It was very apparent, right? लेकिन उस ज़माने में I hadn't developed the language to understand what it was. And I don't claim that I have now, but at least I'm more aware. हाँ.
Yeah.
तो I suppose that's all you can hope for is कि आप सीखते जाओ कि ये सीन क्या है और आप क्या बोल रहे हो, क्यों बोल रहे हो.
Yeah.
Metacognition, right?
And becoming a better person.
Oh, just be a
generally
decent
also.
human being,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, just be a decent human being. Don't be a just whatever.
Yeah.
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह रमज़ान में ये हुआ कि मैंने गालियाँ देना बंद कर दी हैं.
Oh wow.
रमज़ान से पहले मैं
Hasn't improved for me.
No, रमज़ान से पहले मैं पॉडकास्ट पे इतनी गालियाँ देता था. अल्लाह रहम करे. तो फिर what I was saying was when I sat in a room surrounded by women of all sorts,
Yeah.
right? So there was a lot that I had to, because again, और फिर हमारे professors भी कुछ मर्द होते थे, कुछ ख़वातीन होती थी, but they were all obviously उस वक्त उस university
Yeah.
में University of Toronto में they were based off merit. अब एक अगर अच्छी खातून है तो वो खातून अच्छी है, इसलिए खातून का तो कुछ लेना देना नहीं है ना. She's just really good at what she does. And similarly, if it's a guy, he's really good at what he does. It's just like up to 3 PhDs के बाद, I don't know, So there'd be all these girls, all these women, and they'd react in all sorts of ways. It really challenged my notion of propriety. I do hold on to propriety as a concept. There is something that is propriety for me. There's something that is proper, something that is decent. But it didn't force me to question it so much as it forced me to be a little more open to different forms of it. Right?
Yeah.
So अब वही वाली बात है कि मेरे लिए शर्म क्या है, right? तो शर्म ये है कि वो खातून वैसे कपड़े ना पहने, ठीक है, cool. But शर्म ये भी तो हो सकती है ना कि मैं उन खातून को ना देखूं जो ऐसे कपड़े पहन रही हैं, because मेरी शर्म है ना, तो मुझे शर्म आ रही है.
Honestly, like I think just being out of Pakistan, you realize how there are two things. Like, you realize how harassment and racism are something that's global.
Oh, yeah, of
एक
course.
तो ठीक है, so it doesn't come with being in one place.
No.
ठीक है, and then दूसरा, you really sort of, it changes your self body image a lot when you move out of Pakistan.
Right.
And I really felt that a lot when I moved, because being in a place जहाँ पे आपको, you're not, एक तो first of all not differentiated on your gender, like you just said, that someone is teaching you because of their merit, doesn't matter if it's a male or a woman.
That's
That's something that happens. And दूसरा कि मतलब आप realize करते हो, यार, nobody really cares what I'm wearing. Nobody really cares about, how I'm talking.
No, but you realize those things because wahan pe no one does. Yahan pe
Yeah.
people do. That's the
That's
problem.
the thing. Like, like when I talk about body image, that's something that, it's very close to my heart even these days, especially.
Yeah, let's get into it. inshallah.
And the thing is, like, like I was always told that I was fat. And
Okay.
and literally, like, matlab मैं बिल्कुल stick thin थी, which now I look back and I'm like, oh my god, like that's the size I want to be now.
But you were killing yourself. No?
But I was, no, at that time I did not like how I looked, because I was continuously told that, I wasn't the ideal body size. And now that I've gained weight, I look back and I'm like, यार, अब मैं मोटी हूँ, पहले नहीं थी.
अभी आप मोटी तो खैर नहीं हो, लेकिन
But that's something that's told, to you continuously.
What's the ideal body size?
Who knows?
No one knows. Because it doesn't exist.
Apparently, like, there's an ideal body size that's been advertised a lot,
Sure,
right? But
sure.
I think कुछ ideal, किसी भी चीज़ का ideal जो है वो culture to culture differ करता है. What's
Absolutely.
ideal here is not ideal in Africa,
It's
for
really
example,
not. It's really not.
where big bodied are preferred, actually.
Yes. of
So
course.
just, it's just something that kind of blew my mind, because when I moved from here and I went to the UK, I realized when I used to self-criticize myself a lot and sort of just, kind of being very mean to myself, which I think I currently am also. And I used to say that my friends would look at me and they would like, why? They'd be like, yeah, like, what's wrong with you? And they were all like, some of them had bigger bodies than me, and they were so happy with themselves that
Just
it made me feel, and then made me feel kind of embarrassed. I was like, why am I continuously self-hating myself?
Yeah.
And then I realized that this has been something that's been done to me so much in the past that I've sort of absorbed it. And I've realized that I have to treat myself this way.
नहीं, but what's very very interesting there is Annum कि आप ये देखो कि racism वहाँ से आती है.
Yeah.
Right. लेकिन वहाँ जब आप गए, you became comfortable within yourself. That happened to me too. So I used to think I am very hairy, right? Body hair and stuff, right? अब आप जो भी हमारे अपने वो देखो hallmarks of beautiful masculinity आप देखो, always chiseled,
Yeah.
right? Always hairless,
Yeah.
right? And all those things. So from a very young age, I thought there was something wrong with me. I was
Were you ever called Anil Kapoor?
Me, I was not.
Okay.
Anil Kapoor, but
It's such a thing, by the way. Like in Pakistan, if there's a hairy guy, they go like Anil Kapoor. I'm like,
wait, and Anil Kapoor is a brilliant-looking guy.
Yeah,
very
he's-
successful. अब क्या
look
मसला
at
है?
him now. I mean,
Dude, he's good.
you would want to be Anil Kapoor.
I would appreciate that. But हाँ, तो ever since I was very young ना, तो I had all this problem with my body hair and stuff. Malaysia गया, I realized no one cared.
No one cared.
In fact, people are like, "Oh, thank God you have body hair," right? Because they don't.
They don't,
right?
yeah.
And-
They can't grow a beard, yeah. I
And then I
know.
went to Canada, same thing.
Yeah.
No, and I'm just like, what's going on here? So I'm being taught to hate to be me by people who look just like me.
Yeah.
And here's these people who I'm supposed to idolize, and they're just like, nahi, aap chilling, aap achhe ho, zabardast ho."
Yeah. And you stand out, but they think it's beautiful, you
Yeah,
know? So
and-
that's just.
I'm just like, where am I? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I think that's powerful, but also I think we need to be very careful. You absolutely need to have radical acceptance for yourself, right? But at the same time, if we mince words, so someone's like, oh, you're fat. I don't care if I'm fat, right? As long as I'm healthy. And that's the difference, right? As long as my joints don't hurt, these are very basic measures. My joints don't hurt, right? I'm taking in enough nutrients. My digestive system isn't ruined.
I'm happy.
I'm cool, dude. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
so right now, I've lost a bunch of weight. Alhamdulillah. I'm right now 85 kilos. 3 months ago, I was 105 kilos. Right? 105 pay, it's not that I wasn't fast or strong or that I didn't like myself. It's just that my body was aching. I'd wake up. I'm 28, right? I shouldn't be aching when I wake up, get out of bed. My knuckles, my wrists, my elbows, they would hurt.
Yeah.
That's not good, right?
That's you need a change of lifestyle.
No one should tell me कि नहीं आप जैसे भी हो आप खूबसूरत हो नहीं उस्ताद मैं मार रहा हूँ अपने आप को.
Yeah.
There's a difference, right? But if I'm healthy at that size, because some people are built like that कि उनको वो वजन बर्दाश्त कर
सूट
लेते हैं.
करता है, सही लगता है, हाँ. Yeah.
Cool. Then you don't get to tell me if I shouldn't like myself. I love myself, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You shouldn't tell you don't get to tell me that. और यहाँ पे उस पे भी फिर offend हो जाते हैं.
But हर चीज़ पे offend हो जाता है. यहाँ पे I
much
think the goal is to get offended. If you wake up every day and you're like, आज कैसे offend हूँ? Because so you open up your Twitter and you're like, is but this offending?
Recreational outrage. Sure.
Honestly, there's a lot of outrage, and I don't mean that like. It's kind of hypocritical for me to say that because there's lots of outrage in this book. so I can't say that because I think a lot of my writing comes from a lot of anger.
Sure.
So I understand when people are angry about something.
But this is not negative outrage, no? So what you did was you took all of that
and made it into art, yes. Yeah. And I think probably it was a blessing that I was able to do that, you know. Chose to a platform, a way to put that into, you know, a different form. So I think that's important, how you take something and put it into a form of expression.
नहीं तो it burns you. Anger, bitterness, this stuff burns you.
It does.
अंदर से खा जाता है आपको. But बहरहाल अल्लाह रहम करेगा. We were going to talk about the PR thing, right? But just because we're on this subject and because it's very close to my heart. And you did mention earlier that मर्दों की writing, male authors or writers are more preferred than females are, which beautiful, yes, of course. Generally, there's a lack of legitimacy in Pakistan for writing and writers.
Yeah.
Right? Where people have come out and written some beautiful stuff. Recently did a podcast with the wonderful writers for Lal Kabutar. Ali Abbas Naqvi and Basit Naqvi.
Yeah, I used to work with Basit as well.
Oh, awesome, right?
Yeah.
So you will attest then, you will accept that he's a brilliant writer. And then when they told me how much they get paid, it was really upsetting.
Yeah, it
right?
is.
Because that's the kind of writing you, me, if we are so inclined, that's the kind of writing we all want to do.
Yeah, of course.
Is something like that, right? But instead, like you said, you right now do the not so enjoyable kind of writing because it pays better.
Yeah.
So how has your experience been? आपके बड़ों ने, आपके वालिदैन ने क्या? How did they respond to you picking this of all the professions that you could have picked?
Honestly, I honestly very, very privileged. But my dad has always been amazing. He's always supported everything that I wanted to do. So art was quite big in my family. So before I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be an artist. And like जब मैं बचपन में I was छोटी थी मैं, तो my dad used to take me to Sadar to these old artist houses. बेचारे गरीब artists होते थे, जिनके पास कोई job नहीं होती थी. They'd be sitting and just drawing on the road. And my dad knew them, and he would take me, and I would just sit there and like stare at them and watch them how they used to draw. And so so it was sort of a very big deal in my house. के my dad used to say कि doctor तो कितने लोग बनते हैं, और accounts कितने लोग पढ़ते हैं, और math कितने लोग पढ़ते हैं, but कितने कायदे आज़म निकलें, कितने अलामा इकबाल निकलें. And yeah. So my dad would say these kind of things, and and he would really support me in anything that I wanted to do, because I think मैं हमेशा से अच्छी बच्ची थी जो अच्छे grades लाती थी, अपने काम से काम रखती थी, and I would have used to have a hobby as well, so I used to stay out of trouble and everything. So it was sort of like there was these things that I liked doing, and they just kind of nurtured them a lot. So I used to be encouraged to participate in competitions. School mein there was a lot of encouragement as well, right? To just kind of go like, okay, this bachi is talented in this. So I was writing since the age of like 4 or something. So I mean I still have probably my first poem that I wrote when I was 4 years old. Badly rhymed one, but still great.
Yeah, still beautiful. Absolutely.
Yeah. So so my dad did not. My parents, both of them actually, did not ever discourage me from it. There were extended family members.
वो तो करेंगे ना.
वो तो
काम है ना.
हाँ. तो वो तो बस था कि मतलब कुछ even my nanny at one point went like कि क्या तुम लिखती रहती हो, शायर तो सब गरीब होते हैं. And I was like हाँ, can't argue with that.
Sure,
But
but none who that's what we have to change.
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
That's the
And
problem.
now she's like, I think you also have to sort of show the other side to a lot of people कि जब आपके बुड्ढे लोग होते हैं ना आपकी family में, they have this perception from the olden times, and I think they're stuck in that image as well.
Sure.
So you sort of have to bring them with you
Mm-hmm.
and tell them that this is what I'm doing, explain it and showcase it.
You have to be soft now.
Yeah,
you
you can't just be
hard.
so bitter and angry about everything कि क्यों नहीं समझ आ रहा है इनको, कैसे बोल सकती हैं. It's like आप समझाओ भी तो,
और अगर
explain
नहीं
it
भी
to
समझ
her.
रही हैं, और अगर नहीं भी समझ रही हैं, not her journey ना.
Yeah.
Not her life.
And not her journey, not her life, not she comes from another time also. Maybe she's
Exactly.
seen other things that I haven't seen.
Think about exactly.
Yeah.
She's lived at least 3 times the amount that you and I have lived. तो और कुछ नहीं तो इस चीज का तो थोड़ा उनको ग्रेस तो मिलना पड़ेगा ना.
हाँ.
Is she propagating misogyny? Maybe. But then fight the misogyny, don't fight the person.
Yeah.
Right? The person isn't a problem. We're all human beings now.
Exactly.
But Behral, I think that is potent. I think अब देखो, again, this is a man saying this, but I think what is essential for women empowerment, the first thing that is absolutely critical for women empowerment is for our parents, whoever is a parent, to stand behind our daughters and even sons. Yeah, by the way, I would also like that, but
Yeah, definitely.
especially stand behind our daughters unconditionally. ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि भाई अगर आप ये 3 चीजों पे पूरी पढ़ती हैं तो
फिर
आप
आपको ये
बहुत अच्छी
मिलेगा.
बेटी हैं. नहीं, मैं तो आपके साथ ही हूँ. कोई स्टूपिड चीज नहीं करना, लेकिन मैं तो आपका बाबा
But
हूँ,
I'll
आपकी
watch
मम्मी
you
हूँ.
as you do your, you walk through your journey. I'll be there watching
Of
you
course.
and
not only
applauding
that-
you when you succeed and
no.
picking you up when you fail.
No, not only all that, but मैं अगले वाले बंदे का जो है ना मुंह खा जाऊंगा अगर उसने आपको तंग किया. आप जो डरना वरना नहीं है आपने.
Yeah.
We as a generation at least, we were taught to be afraid before we knew what fear was.
Exactly.
You know, like, what am I supposed to be afraid of at 5 years old, dude? I can eat 17 mangoes.
That kind of like
you know.
makes me think of racism as well, because you pointed out that how you go to another country and you expect racism.
Yeah.
I think that was also something that's been a fear that's been inbuilt in us. हम गोरे लोगों से इतना डरते हैं कि हम जाने से पहले ही हमारी फट रही होती है. You know, कि हमें होता है इमिग्रेशन के टाइम से हमारी होती है कि यार मैं पता नहीं वर्ड भी हूँ इस कंट्री में जाने को या नहीं.
आप सोचो इंग्लिश भूल जाते हैं.
Exactly.
I've spoken English since I was 3 years old because of my parents.
Exactly,
because
yeah.
they spoke English. And yet, I'd sometimes stumble with my words when I'd go abroad.
Because you feel that intimidation, because you instantly feel like,
इंसान है यार, क्या हो गया?
who cares
No one
what
cares,
his skin color is? Actually, like, we speak better English than some Americans and British people as well.
So one of my best friends, Christopher D. Peter Antonio, he used to say that all the time. So Chris is a brilliant cat. He's done 2 masters in applied science. He's probably going to do a PhD at some point. Just all-around beautiful human being. वो ये बोलता था कि नहीं, you speak better English than 90% of the people here.
Exactly.
I'm like, and what's cool is everyone from my time and from my social rung in Karachi speaks like this only.
Yeah.
Right? And he was just like, यार बस मजेदार चीज़ है. And he would also, I mean, देखो ना वही वाली बात है. This is why generalizations suck when it comes to people, because no one is, no race or no group of people is ever one way. Na? Racism, essentially, philosophically explained, is a fundamental attribution error. So a fundamental attribution, जब हम cavemen होते थे,
Yeah.
तो हमारे जो आबाउजदाद थे, when they would see a tiger, they did not have the liberty to give the tiger any benefit of the doubt. Right? So they couldn't be like, यार इस टाइगर ने तो मेरी बीवी का जो है बिल्कुल सत्यानाश कर दिया. लेकिन I'm sure all tigers aren't like that. Right? So they made a fundamental attribution. All tigers, if they see a person, they're going to rip stuff up.
Yeah.
So fear all tigers. Now that's a fundamental attribution. Makes sense because the tiger does not have metacognition. तभी वो अशरफुल मखलूकात नहीं है. तभी हम हैं. Because we have metacognition.
Yeah.
That doesn't apply to people, and that's why it becomes a fundamental attribution error, because everyone who looks like you and me is not a terrorist,
Exactly.
is not an Islamist, is not one way or the other. अच्छा, वहाँ पे terrorist हैं, यहाँ पे जो है हम liberals हैं. वो भी
वही,
गलत है.
हाँ.
क्यों? क्योंकि मैंने पतलून पहनी हुई है और आपने earrings पहनी हुई है. मतलब मुझे
Yeah.
नहीं पता क्या है.
Yeah.
Right? It's all a fundamental attribution error. None of it makes sense. It's in the name. It's an error. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So, but that fear that's been put into you, right? That's just it sort of takes away from the experience. Also,
100%.
once you do go to another country, and a lot of like, it's kind of both things. Like few of the Pakistanis who would go abroad would be so nervous
Yeah.
because they're so nervous of speaking up.
Yeah.
Expressing the opinion, and then
Yeah.
you would see some Pakistanis would be so confident.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the other side always.
You were confident.
Yeah, I was always confident.
I was
and
never confident.
I was so confident because I realized, like, especially in Malaysia, I think Malaysia really boosted my confidence because my idea था कि Pakistan के बाहर तो everyone's amazing, like a lot amazing than we are. ठीक है? And when I went to Malaysia, I realized,
नहीं.
oh, okay.
ऐसा नहीं होता. It's like everywhere.
Oh my God, that's racist as well.
Yeah,
But we
Sure.
all are a little
Yeah,
racist.
yeah,
I believe that.
Yeah, same.
But like honestly, like I went to Malaysia and I realized I was like, कोई बोलता ही नहीं है यहाँ पे तो कोई बोलता ही नहीं था क्लास में तो I'd always be the one raising my hands. I used to be that annoying kid in class who'd have an answer for every question.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I think I speak a lot in other countries and like I had a lot to say all the time, and then I just carried that on, and I think that kind of really did boost my confidence because it made me realize that there's more to just me being Pakistani. That's just not that's a label I carry, and it can be a good label.
Sure.
And I can add more to it, and I can create
Inshallah,
that. I can change that label in ways that I
yours,
want. Right?
Yours,
It's
yeah,
mine.
Yeah.
And I think I did that in UK as well. Like I'm also spoken word poet.
Yeah,
so,
I know, yeah.
So I also perform on stages. And
So do you remember something right now?
what?
Like a poem?
I heard. No, please don't make me do that.
I
My
won't make
immigration
you.
officer asked me once, by the way, to recite a poem.
Beautiful.
Oh my God, my dad was like, "Bolo, hum andar nahi ja payenge." I was like, "I don't want to."
No, I don't want to. ये गलत बात
I
है.
actually said it. I was like, "I'm sorry, no." And he was like, "Well, recite a poem for me." And I was like, "No,
I'm not a monkey.
I'm not going to dance like when you tell me to dance,
ऐसे नहीं
right?" So
होता.
I was like, "No." And my dad was like, "Beta." I was like, "Papa, nahi."
Yeah, that's
So, like, as a spoken word poet, like, one of my things that, because my books are about identity and it's about race and culture as well. So, when I would go everywhere, I would very proudly state that my name is Annum, learn how to pronounce that. And I'm a Pakistani,
Yeah.
and I'm going to talk about race
Yeah.
with people like you.
Yeah.
And, the good thing about poetry and the good thing about writers in general is that everyone's very open to maybe not here, because I know you're making that face. and
No,
like,
yeah. I'm thinking generally. I'm wondering why. लेकिन आप बोलो फिर मैं
I think empathy होती है.
Sure.
I think there's the ability to listen and just because we tend to put ourselves into other people's shoes.
But that, and also we unpack our entire thing, na? So
Yeah.
it's absolutely one of the best ways to manifest metacognition is आप बाकायदा जो भी आपके दिमाग में वो आप एक paper
लिख
पे
रहे हो ना, like I'm literally like exposing myself, literally bare naked in front
Yes.
of you and asking you to read me.
Yes.
And that is exactly what writing is, because so when you're trying to just you just unbutton everything and you put everything out, and
Scary.
someone's reading
Yeah.
like what everything you entail, and then it's like, oh, now I understand what you're saying,
course.
and how can someone be angry about that then? How can someone be angry about someone's story or
यार खैर लोग तो माशाल्लाह लोगों को तो आप
वो
जानते हैं.
तो हाँ तो that's why I'm talking about like the poetry community itself or the writing community, that when you do that and you just express in front of people that are like-minded, it becomes easy and it becomes that you feel accepted.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, I think. You're right. But at the same time, अभी two podcasts ago this happened. So I had this brilliant lady on, Kinja Khoso, right? I don't know if you follow me on Instagram. उनकी clip थी Instagram पे. She runs, I think, 3 charities or something, and she's a real estate agent. Just all around, just kind of like a gangster, छोटी सी gangster
Oh,
होती है,
okay,
ऐसे
nice.
होती है. Right? But she said something about the Aurat March that did not go well, or did not sit well with some other very intelligent people on my Instagram. And so they just berated her. She's like, "You're absolutely wrong." I'm like, yes, she's absolutely wrong. I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I have disagreed in the video with what she's saying. But at the same time, you cannot minimize her to just that. So there must be softness. You must allow for her to come to that conclusion, right? And you must also understand that she's doing something. She is at a level
She isn't just sitting and speaking
No,
and
no,
saying
it's
something.
not exactly. वो तो she's putting her money where her mouth is. You know? तो अगर उन्होंने औरत मार्च के बारे में एक चीज बोल भी थी, nothing's a monolith and nothing defines you. You know, everything is a part of you. You are not a part of it.
Yeah.
You must understand your power, right? If the Aurat March is all you are, that's a problem too.
That's a problem too,
right?
of course, yeah.
The Aurat March is just a part of you.
And you can't say that everything is right with it, and you can't say everything is
It's
wrong
wrong
with
with
it,
it.
which is how anything is.
Everything is,
you know,
yes.
like any kind of movement.
Yes.
Not everything can be right in it, and not everything can be wrong in it. Can't be right in it because it's so massive that it can't exactly be controlled.
No,
ठीक है?
no.
This is what some people just don't understand about Aurat March also, is because you can't say कि मैं बिल्कुल 100% हूँ, because हाँ, there are weird things that happen sometimes that you can't justify.
Yeah, देखो,
But even if they happen, you being there does not mean that you support it.
absolutely
you know?
not. Absolutely not, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely
and it's just something that's it's pretty simple. But people, that's what I was saying about being just angry about something. I just feel like people like wake up one day and go like, आज किस चीज़ के बारे में गुस्सा करना है? And they want to pick out something or the other, because they just don't want anything to be looked at perfectly. You know, कि कोई चीज़ perfect नहीं होती.
नहीं.
तो when जब नहीं होती, they want to pinpoint and pick out stuff and go like, hey, this is the reasons that's wrong. Nobody talks about the reasons why it's right also. And वो extremist sides होती हैं. एक extreme side आपकी सिर्फ गलत बातों में बात कर रही होती है, एक सिर्फ right side पे होती है. There's no, that's just combining both and giving you a perspective of what is actually happening.
Absolutely. उसमें ये है ना कि you can't take sides, dude. You know, because if I take a side, फिर आप तो गलत हो ना. क्योंकि नहीं तो मैं कैसे हार जाऊं?
Yeah.
तो फिर आपको
It's about winning ना हमेशा.
It's about winning ना. तो वहाँ पे जो है अब आखिर में आप ये देखो कि it's an hour and 30 minutes, and some people actually pointed that out. They were like कि भाई इतना लंबा पॉडकास्ट है तो पूरा सुन लो. दूसरे आगे से खातून आती है, who's a brilliant lady, by the way. That's why I'm not naming her, because I know her to be extremely intelligent. माशाल्लाह से. And she comes out, she's like, हाँ, but you'd much rather do all your research on the Aurat March. No one needs to do anything to understand we're all on the same side. There are no sides. There's only one side. And anyone who's actually a problem, आप उनसे deal करो ना. This lady is not a problem. Do you know? So
I also just feel, Kazi, like everything in life, even feminism,
sure, of course,
is something that you grow with and you learn about as you grow.
Yes.
My view of feminism today isn't the same as it was 5 years ago.
If it were, I think it'd be a problem.
Yeah, and I think so. So if someone says something, जो उसका भी opinion है, वो शायद 5 साल बाद उसका opinion नहीं हो. Give her the liberty to maybe even accept. Maybe if not accept, then just understand कि उनका opinion है, वो शायद change हो जाए, शायद नहीं भी change हो. That's not your problem.
And alienation isn't the solution, ना?
Yeah.
तो फिर क्या? अब आप उन वो क्या करेंगी? Like I said, she's killing it in life. वो आपसे बात नहीं करेंगी.
Exactly. She's just not going to bother with it. Yeah.
You lost someone.
Yeah.
You can't relegate people to the side. That's not how we're getting anywhere, na? That's not how we're getting anywhere. With that wonderful note, what would you recommend if I were to read one thing from this book?
Ooh.
See that now I'm not putting you on the spot because I'll read it.
I mean, my favorite is it's a spoken word actually, so it's a little long.
Okay.
But it's called Anna.
Anna. Okay, where is that? Let's find that out.
शायद page 11 है, याद नहीं.
अच्छा ये तो करीब ही होगा. Page 10 पे है. Oh, page 17 पे है. For your information.
Okay.
All right. Let's do segments of this. I'll read a part, right?
Sure.
And then we can talk about your PR firm.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Anna, okay. थोड़ा सा मुझे वो दो तशरीह दो ये कहाँ से क्या है?
So basically, how we spoke about, like, you know, how I sort of go with pronounce my name correctly.
Yes.
It comes from being Anna for a very long time, because when I would go to Starbucks, every time I would give my coffee order, तो बहुत लंबा लगता था, कहते थे spell it out, Annum, right? So I'd be like A-N-N, and then there'd be a long line behind me, and they'd be like, sorry, what? Is it Anna? So the one time I was just like, yeah, it is, you know? And then it was like, you know what? It's easier to just go like Anna. It's the easiest name. And it's बहुत ही गोरा नाम है. So I go I'd be like Anna, and they would just quickly write me. And then I realized that,
4 letters.
Yeah, and then I just wrote a poem about how that's sort of like me giving away my identity of being a Pakistani to becoming an Anna.
It really is. मैं जो है, so for the longest time I was Kaz, not Kazi.
Ah, okay.
4 से भी उनने 3 कर दिया था मुझे.
Yeah, but इतना easy.
कितना आसान Kaz.
Yeah.
Well, all right, here we go, huh? Anna, as a child you colored a circle your mother had drawn on a piece of paper with blue, yellow, orange and red. Do you remember saying it was Earth? Oh. Anna, you were taught about borders for the first time when your father had to borrow money to transfer to his account to show as funds, so you could claim to be successful just because you were in another country. You marked on a map, rich and poor. You knew where you wanted to be. So PR, that's good, dude. That's heavy.
Thank you.
We'll read more about it later. लेकिन into it later. लेकिन आप मुझे बताओ, how is PR and why did you get into it initially? Because honors के बाद आपने communication वगैरह की.
Yeah.
You come back. Why that? And again, did your parents were they like, cool, go into it?
Yeah. My
That's
parents were
impressive.
always like, "Hey, jo bhi karna hai,
Full
kar lo."
unconditional.
Yeah. No conditions ever. We're just like, "Oh, it looks like a nice place, good people. You'll be happy there. Okay, great, go ahead." You know.
That's beautiful.
That's just how
Yeah.
it's been always.
Yeah.
I got into PR because, like I said, I studied it and I fell in love with it because I am I love public speaking.
Sure.
And I was very good at presentations, and PR is a lot about pitching ideas, and I'm a creative person, so I would.
Firm wala PR, bande wala PR. Like, do you manage people or firms?
We manage brands.
All right,
yes.
brands. So
So I never wanted to manage people.
You didn't? You don't want to?
Never wanted to manage
Yeah, main
people.
पूछने वाला था.
I've dealt a lot with celebrities, and not all of them are nice people. So I don't want to stay away from
well,
that.
we need to get into that.
नहीं इतना ज़्यादा अच्छा because I've always been the creative side, so I've always been behind the entire firm creating ideas, not directly dealing with a lot of celebrities, but obviously like in the same in the same place.
Yeah.
Started as a very small firm, so उस पर ज़्यादा deal करते थे with
मुंह
celebrities.
देखना पड़ता था उनका.
मतलब आपकी scripts लिखते हो आप उनके लिए कि वो क्या बोलेंगे, to like what speech they'll say when they go on a stage.
Sure.
So like
फिर आप कौन हो? वही वाली बात है.
exactly, like I think being in the industry, you've realized that now anything that I see in media or anything I see on social media, I just realized that I don't know if any of this is real.
Yeah, most of it probably isn't.
Because I'm writing all of that for my brands and for my for celebrities and influencers all the time, that now if I see anything by an influencer, I'm like, yeah, आपके दिमाग से आया है किसी और के दिमाग से
अच्छा, you just go, ठीक है, give him a side
yeah,
eye.
so just like when you're in advertising, you see in every ad and you're like, very nice, amazing story, has nothing to do with the product.
No, never.
It just has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the product. So I got into it because I love churning out ideas. I love like sitting down, researching, finding out कि यार अच्छा इसको किस तरह से represent करें. And because I write a lot and I use metaphors a lot,
Sure.
so I'm always thinking that how can this be said in this, because see, art communication, it's all about things that have already been said and already been done.
Yes.
It's about taking that and making it new, right? So it's sort of just refreshing.
Sure.
एक refresh होता है उसके अंदर
Yes.
और वही tweak करके एक चीज़ डालते हो उसको एक brand new बना देते हो. There's a book that I read. It was called Every Artist Steals. And
Sure, yeah.
and I think it was so true, because it's like you think this is my inspiration and this is my idea. No, it's not, honey.
No.
You've read it before.
Really?
You read it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been stuck
Pastiche,
in your
right?
subconscious,
Yeah.
and you just it came from somewhere. You refreshed it,
Yeah.
sort of like putting it in a washing machine. नया करके आपने
उसमें भी कोई गलत बात
निकाल.
नहीं है.
कोई गलत बात नहीं है.
But that's what it is.
Yeah, but that's in the end, everything that you create is inspired, right?
Yes.
So I like doing that. I like sitting with a group of people and discussing and coming up with a story. In the end, I am a storyteller, and this is the sort of side that I kind of directed myself to because it would pay me. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It gave me the opportunity to lead, and it also gave me the opportunity to just experiment a lot with writing itself.
Sure.
So even though kabhi kabar it was boring stuff, writing press releases and stuff like that, sometimes it was a lot of fun as well, because I was also coming up with TVC ideas. I was writing scripts as well. Also just doing a lot of activities in-house, creating video samples, doing a lot of video content as well. So it kind of gave you the liberty to interact with lots of different kind of people, do a lot of different kind of medium ke andar writing. So that's why I got into it, and it's been a good experience.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I think that's what I said about like me going through social media now, कि मुझे बस ऐसा feel होता है कि यार nothing's real around
Nothing's
me,
real.
because PR in the end is very fake.
Yeah, but
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I was getting into the field, I had a few issues with how ethical things are.
क्या मतलब?
PR में बहुत चीज़ें होती हैं where, you know, like anti-narrative campaigns, for example,
Okay.
which is, you know, one brand against another. And
Sure,
then
okay.
you, seedings, for example. So, you know, just how it's sort of like ghostwriting, like, you know, you're writing pretending to be someone else. So there's a lot about authenticity there. And that's not exactly as ethical as I would want it to be, because that makes me feel like, okay, so someone not as knowledgeable as me, who's not from the industry, would be reading this and would think that this is this person's view, and that in some sense is wrong. You know, मैं some sense कह रही हूँ, है ही wrong.
हाँ, नहीं, गलत है. सीधी बात
है ही
है.
wrong, but you know, that's in the end, it's what I do, and not ashamed of it, but sometimes you just question it, you know.
You question it. लेकिन आपने एक और चीज़ अभी वो की, and I would like to go on a tangent here. You said, you know, this is what I like and this is what pays me. Have you, as a woman or even as just a person, मतलब हर किसी के लिए होता है, ever been, maybe not ostracized, but have you ever been made to feel bad for wanting money, for wanting more money for your work?
No.
No, because that's a theme, ना कि भाई क्यों पैसे क्यों चाहिए आपको?
But then, you know, then again, that like I said, like हमारी PR industry में ज़्यादा women, there are more
खातिन
women.
हैं, हाँ.
Yeah.
माशाल्लाह.
And I think when that happens, when your majority has so many women, you know, the industry wouldn't work without them, or your firm won't work without them. My boss is a female boss.
Exactly.
So then it I don't think that, you know, that kind of biasness, like I never faced that, thankfully. I know that many other women face it.
Sure.
Not taking that away from them,
No.
but thankfully I never did.
PR firms generally कितने हैं? If you guys are one of the top ones, और कितने, और वो are they उनकी composition आप लोगों जैसी है या अलग है?
So I haven't worked anywhere else, so I can't exactly say, but we do. I think they're about not too many. So a lot of them are basically become communication firms.
Okay.
So we're also PR and digital.
Okay.
But we work very separately in those two departments. And then there are some firms that are doing PR not just for brands, but also for people.
Sure,
so
yeah.
there's celebrity managers as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you have a mix of them basically. Then there's some advertising companies that have a PR department.
Yes. पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है आजकल तो.
हाँ, तो और ना PR in Pakistan isn't understood the way that PR happens in other countries. So that was also something that, you know, I had to struggle with, because everything that I had learned, because I had academically studied it.
Sure, of course.
यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान में कोई PR का कोर्स ही नहीं है.
नहीं,
ठीक है?
जी नहीं.
There's not a degree that you can do in PR. So every graduate that we would get them from marketing, who knew what advertising was, they had no idea what PR was.
Explain the difference.
So advertising is everything that you're selling to. You sell a product, right? PR में you're not selling anything tangible.
No.
You're selling an image.
Yes.
So I'm trying to craft a story that you can view positively, so you can look at a brand and go like, I feel good about this brand.
इसकी कहानी क्या है?
It might convert into a sale years later.
Yeah.
Or it might convert right then and there, but
Yeah.
there's no guarantee of sale. It's
No.
more word of mouth. It's more about a perception.
Sure.
Advertising is because I want you to buy it. This product is good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what marketing is in the end. So it's sort of all paid. PR, I mean, there's lots of unpaid as well.
Sure.
It's about talking about it. It's about writing about it. You know, crafting a story that is so good that people want to talk about it.
Makes sense. Sure.
So that's what PR is. You know,
And
वो
people
भी
just aren't ready
Pakistan में भी like it just doesn't get accepted. यहाँ पे भी like now PR has become very paid as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Alhamdulillah.
and that's just it's quite. It was very difficult for me to understand when I moved, because I was like, I'd always be arguing कि नहीं यार ये नहीं है ये कैसे हो रहा है, you know, that kind of a thing. But our media industry has expanded, and the course of PR also over the years has changed a lot. पहले हम लोग ज़्यादा I think चीज़ें कर पाते थे, on ground कर पाते थे. You know, there were different ways that we were getting a good word of mouth. Now it's very Instagram based. Everyone's an influencer.
Of course.
There is no authenticity and credibility to anyone anymore. कोई भी उठ के influencer बन जाता है. You know, everyone cannot be a content creator. And I'm not just saying that because मैं सोचती हूँ कि मैं बहुत अच्छी content creator or anything like that. It's just that I just feel like there needs to be, like when I'm talking about storytelling, in the end, content creation is also about storytelling, you know.
Yes,
you can't be doing everything. And
यार वही वाली बात है ना, it's about monetizing themselves, क्योंकि उनके पास क्या है, they don't, I mean, I'm being crude and kind of simplist, reductionist, but they don't really have any other skill set besides themselves. They are the product.
Yeah.
तो फिर merch भी बनेगी, फिर किताब भी लिख देंगे, फिर जो हो सकता है वो करेंगे just to sell. और and वही वाली बात है, they maybe don't understand the longevity of it. Maybe they don't realize कि अगर आप इतना short term सोचोगे, eventually you're going to stop. And फिर आप कहाँ जाओगे? You know?
And also just you want to create anything that you put out for people to see, you want it to be the best version of what you're putting out. Because as someone who consumes content on a regular basis, I've seen so much stupid content that I don't want to see anything that dumbs me down. And I feel like Pakistan का problem ही यही है, हमारा media में इतना dumb down कर देता है that people don't think the audience is smart. They think they're very stupid. Yeah. But the audience is very smart.
Yeah.
It can tell when you're lying. It can tell when you're creating bad content. It can differentiate between good and bad, good quality and bad quality.
But the argument against what you're saying would be that all that dumb content, they get millions of views.
I know.
क्या हो रहा है?
So frustrating. I swear to God, it's so frustrating because we're sitting in office every day and we're like, man,
full brainstorm चल रहा है.
This person's come, you see this person's content being created and you're like, she's getting paid for that? Can I do it? And that's a regular conversation because sometimes it's just like, yeah, people are hiring this person, right? Like, whoever is
paid, yeah.
She's getting paid, she's making money, she's making content every day. Not even, honestly, not even a name in my mind because, like, I just generally think that about so many, like, influencers because it's like, wow, okay, like, really? You're doing this and you're still getting paid and you're still making bad content.
Okay, so what's interesting there is कि अगर हम अभी बात करने पे आए who are your favorite or my favorite, anyone's favorite content creators, तो फिर वही 4-5 लोग आ जाते हैं, उनके नाम आते हैं, इरफान जुनेजो आ गया, मूरू आ गया, पतनगीर आ गए, ये लोग ही हैं, right?
But then you see the amount of effort they put into their videos, right?
Not only effort, and वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना कि because their content is actually good. All these other people who are getting millions of views as well, उनका content भले mass viewing हो उसमें, sure, they might attract the masses, but it's not objectively, it's not the best content. I'm just saying, even some people might not like him. Junaid Akram, like people resonate. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
you hate. Okay, fine, hate him. Did that make like anything?
It's not going to make the people who watching him stop watching him.
No,
simple as that.
And he's
and
also,
then he does, he said stuff in the past that has been good too. So you can't just like we just talked about. You can't pinpoint one thing and go like, "बस इसने बंदे ने ये कह दिया बुरा ही बंदा है." नहीं हो सकता यार. There's no good and bad person. I don't believe in that anywhere.
Albert Camus.
So
अपना था. आपको पता है फेज 6 में रहता है एल्बर्ट कैमू, वो जो है इट्स अ जोक, अनम कम ऑन.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you saying? I was so lost. I was like, क्या? इफ्तारी के बाद ही जो.
So all the philosophers I quote, I'll always tell my guest यहीं पे KDA में रहता है, आपको पता नहीं है. But Albert Camus was a French existentialist and he came up with absurdism and all those things. He said this. He made this argument against the death penalty.
Okay.
Right? And I would argue it applies with cancellation as well. जो हम cancel कर देते हैं लोगों को, कि यार देखो, are you then suggesting that this person, with fundamental attribution, that this person, there is no possibility of him changing? Please bear in mind, his crime is simply saying something problematic. That's why I just said that I don't believe that there is a good person and a bad person. No. I don't think there's a definition of good and bad. No.
You basically commit a bad action or you commit a good action.
Sure, yeah.
And you can only be sort of criticized or appreciated on that singular action only.
Yeah.
So, everybody makes mistakes and there needs to be like a liberty to bhai कि मैंने mistake बना दी and I can recover from it.
Yeah, Allah मियां माफ कर देता है.
And who's saying that we're all perfect sitting here? मतलब, I've made so many mistakes in life. I'm sure I've hurt someone as well.
Sure,
even if I go like मैंने कभी किसी को नहीं धोखा दिया होगा, I'm sure दिया होगा,
Yeah.
So we're not flawless either, and I think we're just too quick. We're too quick to solidify our judgments and not give anyone a chance. We love to hate.
We do love. आप सही बोल रहे हो. आप गलत नहीं बोल रहे हो, सब बोल रहे हो.
We love to hate. We
and
just
hate
like,
sells also ना फिर.
मतलब हम जब मैं कंटेंट की बात कर रही हूँ, हम देखते भी हैं वो बुरा कंटेंट. कहने के लिए कितना बुरा है. हम शेयर करते हैं कि देखो है कितनी बुरी लग रही है.
बट शेयर किया.
हाँ, बट शेयर किया तो उसका तो बग बढ़ गया ना. उसका ये wow, like man, look how many shares. She doesn't know whose inbox is going into and criticizing her kid.
Yeah.
I did that yesterday with someone's kid.
Someone's kid.
I was like, कितनी annoying बच्ची है. मैंने भेजा था. annoying बच्ची थी.
अनम बच्ची थी इसलिए थी पता है हमें.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, you're still watching the bad. You're saying millions of views. That's also coming from probably people like me also, just like कितना बुरा content है. मैं देखती हूँ बोलती हूँ यार ये क्या था, पर मैं देखा.
हाँ, exactly. And so then that becomes the problem ना कि there is also. अच्छा, तो अब हमारे थे फ्रॉइड, एक दोस्त थे हमारे. उनने जो है I think came up with the theory of cognitive capital. He's like, और ये intuitively it makes sense कि हमारा cognitive capital finite होता है. So let's not even think about it in terms of weeks or months or years or whatever, but even on a daily basis there's only so much you can do, right? तो उसमें जब आप when you begin to waste, or not waste, but allocate cognitive capital to this stuff, you realize you have less for the good stuff. खत्म हो गया आपका.
Yeah.
खत्म हो रहा है आपका.
That's true.
Right? So I mean, there's something to be said about that as well, कि यार,
your energy is going now into focusing on so much on the bad that you have nothing left for the good.
No, you have nothing left. And I think it would have someone like you, especially who's employed by your creativity. आपके लिए तो खैर वो आपकी creativity को भी मेरे ख्याल में affect करेगा.
Creativity को timelines बहुत ज़्यादा affect करती है.
Time मतलब वो Ali भाई said this ना on the podcast. He was like कि रात के 8 बजे आपको phone करेंगे.
Yeah.
लेकिन सुबह के 10 बजे चाहिए. और
Oh my God, Kazi, I can't explain like
you?
what
You
like.
can't?
Oh my God, sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Honestly, like that's the biggest, and that's also how the PR industry has changed, because it wasn't like this. It wasn't this rat race that it is now.
Yeah.
Advertising, PR, both. It's become like you imagine creatives as machines. कि आपने एक ब्रीफ डाली मुंह से अंदर और कान से जो है ना आपका आइडिया निकल आएगा. That's just how they expect कि oh this is what it is. Sometimes the briefs also are nothing. It's one line कि oh yeah I want to do this, and so can you do something about summer and spring? And that's the brief that you're gonna get, and you're like, and you've had 5 other briefs that have come like this before in the same month.
Is this?
Honestly, it's like I think you take it for granted.
Yeah, sure.
You're like you don't care. You take it for granted. You don't care. You sort of put all your expectations on an agency, and when a brand does that, it's a lot of pressure.
Sure.
Because you always expect it to be brilliant.
Which
know?
is
And कहाँ से और एक बंदा like anyone has a capacity की एक limit होती है.
Cognitive capital.
And you need to sleep, and you need to wake up, and you need to eat, and you need to do normal human stuff to be able to just program.
Yes.
And to be able to read, research, to be able to create something that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because if I don't like something that I'm suggesting, that I don't believe in it, how can I send it forward?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And that's a very big problem, because you're not given any time, you're not given any rest, you're not given any space. We've made pitches and plans, and we've done this in 2 days, 1 day. Puri presentations, 50 to 100 slides.
This is a problem because of this reason only. कि अब जब ये project है, जब ये originally sanction हुआ था, तो उनके पास हफ्ते थे, महीने थे. तो भाई तब बताते ना, सो क्यों रहे थे?
But that's the thing, you take it for granted. You're like, हाँ, ये लोग कर लेंगे. Because the thing is, it's also habit. And the thing is, agencies need to change that, because they need to reinforce these rules that no, we need 10 days. Our creative team is going to work on it.
Yeah.
ये नहीं होता कि our creative team will deliver. Yeah, okay, you got it. We're going to deliver in 1 day. How are you going to deliver Monday? You're going to deliver trash then,
But I suppose, I suppose the bosses, not saying this about your boss, but generally the bosses are okay with trash going out, because at some level they understand कि भाई उनको तो कोई फर्क पड़ना नहीं है, trash हो ना हो, they're going to pay us. Why rock the boat, so to speak? Why do that?
Well, I wish it was like that. उनको कोई फर्क भी नहीं पड़ता कि trash है, फिर उसका फर्क भी तो बहुत पड़ता है ना, फर्क भी बहुत पड़ता है.
फर्क भी पड़ता है.
So then it's like, what? This is nothing new. इसमें तो कुछ newness नहीं है, ये तो आपने सुना हुआ है. It's like सुना हुआ है because time भी तो नहीं दिया ना आपने कुछ new निकालने के लिए. So that's just, it's a very frustrating part, I think, of being a part of the industry. And like recently I was reading about how advertising agencies that people were being forced in India especially to be working day and night when the entire pandemic was going on and the crisis became worse. And so many people lost their lives because they were being forced to come to office. And I was thinking, like, how many deadlines ऐसी आती हैं that it's about life and death if this one influencer doesn't post a picture. And it's not about that,
No.
and I feel like we kind of take something very small and make it so big in our heads when we're in the industry itself that we really think that it's going to change the course of life if something doesn't go. Yeah, and then you send it across, and then a brand takes ages
to respond.
And at that time you're like, wait, we were told that it's matter of life and death if we don't deliver this right
your
now.
life and your death.
Yeah.
वो तो सही है ना.
हाँ, because हम तो मतलब पागल हो गए ना, हमारी तो मतलब energy exhaustion सब कुछ हो गई है, and you know, and you just take you're like, अब क्या हुआ? And then they don't get back to you. Then they never. They there's so much that happens.
There's just no appreciation for the
there
creative
isn't.
process.
Oh, there isn't, and that's a lot of work. Honestly,
आप
like.
परेशान नहीं हो, हम थोड़ी और किताब से पढ़ते हैं. सही, कोई परेशान नहीं हो. I got you. Anna, and this is the third paragraph now. Anna, you speak the language of those who had conquered your land before you had been born. Today you can write an essay on the effects of colonization in words that aren't even your own. Okay. Anna, you came packaged, labeled, stereotyped like stamps of religion injected onto newborn bums. Will you ever be able to forget how you felt being interrogated by an immigration officer at the airport? Powerful, very good, yes. Especially like the imagery of stamps of religion injected onto newborn bums. Very good. Very good. Gee, आप बता रही थी PR agencies के बारे में. I don't know. I'm just enjoying myself, dude. I love reading good writing, especially when the person who wrote it is in front of us. I think मेरे जो writing, माशाल्लाह, मेरे जो writing program था ना, one of the most fun things about it, which I mean, they called it work, right? Sure, study, whatever. Was कि they divvy us into groups. So groups of 4, right? और फिर ये होता था. What they were trying to do was teach us the primacy of editing. So 80% of writing is actually editing.
Yeah.
Right? Any writer you would say that to will be like, yes. Everyone else is just like, kya baat kar rahe ho, right? When you read a draft, or
that's half your job as a writer. I feel.
When you read this piece of writing, this is like the 9th draft or something.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, it could probably be more, right?
If it hasn't ended up in trash can.
Yeah. If it hasn't, yeah. So we'd sit around and we'd just read the writing, and then we'd just edit it for each other.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just so much fun, right? And
I missed that.
Yeah. I have like कोई माशाल्लाह से 12 दोस्त हैं कम से कम. Them and I, we have this connection because we read each other's writing and just edited it proper. But यहाँ पे there is another thing जो हमें सिखाया गया था writing school में, which was murder your darlings. यहाँ पे they take it very personally, na? Like if you were to say to someone, read their writing, and you're like, yeah, this paragraph is kind of off. Your face is kind of off. Is the response you get, right?
It's like you have to be open to criticism as a writer.
Yeah.
I think that's something that you're taught. Like if you can't do that, you'll never grow.
No.
So we were taught how to feedback properly in class. You know, it's actually a process to learn how to say something mean in a very nice way. Sort of just flower your words so that the other person doesn't completely feel like shit. Oh yaar, मैंने तो बिल्कुल ही bullshit लिख दिया. You don't feel bad with that. They can work on it. So it's always about like you start with something positive, you middle pack all your negative comments, and then you end with something great. So you can't just say you can't read something go like सब कुछ ही बहुत बुरा था, or you can't say that everything was great
because it wasn't.
Yeah, because like we talked about, nothing's perfect, right?
No.
So there's always going to be. Go ahead. Ramzan hai, but I'm just kidding. I know what it is.
Come on.
I was just joking.
यार भाई, ऐसा नहीं करो.
So like. So there's a way to feedback and to be able to be open to criticism. Like I remember there's one class where the guy wrote a very sexist writing. And
do you remember some of it?
Don't remember, but it was just a very angry narrative by a man. He was a guy himself, and he wrote it from the perspective of a man. He was just a very sexist guy who was just horny all the time, and he was just thinking about how women. He would basically go out and view women as objects, and he'd written all of that.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, and then everybody just crucified him, right? They were like, what did you write? And la 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 la, pure comments. And I was like, wait, he's written about a character, right? Like, he hasn't written about himself. Because you have to, the thing is about a writer, what I also face, very regularly is that we can't differentiate an author from their art. Just as an actor is in a film, and he's acting in a film, authors also lie.
Of course.
Okay?
Of course.
And like I lie all the time.
You have to.
Everything that I'm writing in my book is not about me.
No,
It's just something that, I perceived, I wrote, and like, because I could put myself into this different space for a minute, and I put it on paper, and I was acting for a minute when I was writing that as a person who had gone through that.
Sure.
Right? And so you have to be able to understand that. So you can't base criticism on the person or who he or she is, and then you go like, ये तुमने लिखा है इसका मतलब this is what you feel. And I was like, wait, he's written about a character who's sexist. As a character who's so sexist and is a villain basically.
Yeah, तो यही करेगा ना और क्या
तो
करेगा?
वो तो मतलब यही लिखेगा
So
ना.
then his writing
That
is
is what
good?
his So I was like, I don't understand what's wrong with it. I was like, it's pretty nice because I felt how mean it was. So that guy never came back to class.
But that's what I was going to say. What I was going to say was, if you react like that, we need to avoid echo chambers of all sorts.
Yeah.
Of every sort. अब आप और मैं यहाँ बैठे हुए हम बोलने सब औरतों को उनके हकूक मिल जाने चाहिए. ठीक है? एक औरत आके बोलती है कि भाई मुझे मेरे हकूक नहीं चाहिए. तुम दफा हो जाओ बकवास गलत. What? But you understand you need to have room for even that narrative कि भाई क्यों नहीं उनको उनके हकूक चाहिए. You have to learn. If you antagonize people enough, they will start believing what they didn't believe to begin with.
So
अब वो point नाराज
that
हो
is
गया.
also bullying, by the way.
Of course.
Because we think because we are all
हमें तो
liberals
पता है
and
यार.
हम तो कहते हैं कि मतलब अगर हमने किसी को criticize किया उसको सुनना था. He
Right.
should listen to
Because
it.
I'm so woke.
But do you don't understand that any comment from you can literally like take away everything that a person has worked on,
It can
and
make
just
people suicidal, dude.
yeah. So like one bad thing like मतलब वो बंदा never came back to class and
अल्लाह जानता है क्या हुआ
मतलब वो
उसके
क्या हुआ उसने क्या किया उसने कभी खत्म की अपनी कहानी नहीं खत्म की बेचारे
Masters
ने.
में था ना.
Yeah, and he was
सोचो.
in masters and he never came back, and I always felt so bad because all these people were people I used to sit with every day and write, and I was like, wow, like we really
Don't know each
we
other.
basically bullied him. We basically bullied the guy. We didn't accept it. Nobody ever talked about it.
Yeah.
It was very silent and was very like just missed and ignored. That good riddance. He was a weird guy.
Come on.
But now I think about him like wow, like we really bullied him because he obviously felt like he was harassed and cornered, and he was just told that his writing was terrible, and now that's what he believed for that moment.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't true.
आप ऐसे सोचो ना मसला यही है ना and I remember speaking to Zarar Khor Sahab about this and he's just the way he speaks I was just like यार ये इतनी बुरी चीज़ है और आप इसको इतना अच्छा कैसे sound कर I don't know right but it said the same thing in the end liberals even become exactly like the people that they criticize
Yeah, you
right?
become
Which-
like the people you hate. Yeah.
ये जो आप मुल्ले जिनको आप बोलते हैं ये ऐसे ये वैसे
हम भी तो
आप-
extremist
आप
हैं.
क्या कर रहे हो exactly
Yeah.
you're an extremist as well if you're literally cancelling people literally rejecting people literally bullying people because that's what you're doing the other thing is when you start postulating theories as meaning what you want them to mean a theory is an apparatus
Yeah.
सही है ना feminism को ये नहीं परवाह कि आपकी feelings क्या है
हाँ.
it's an apparatus to understand the world
Yeah.
आप नहीं अगर आपने फेमिनिज्म पढ़ी अनम तो आपको पता है मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ काजी आप क्या बोल रहे हो you know like
What is right to you is right to you.
exactly
I'm not going to perceive it in the same way.
and feminism is an apparatus it's not an answer nothing's an
Exactly.
answer it's a tool just like Marxism is a tool is
Yeah.
Marxism bad well feminism came from Marxism अब क्या करोगे
Uh-oh, up the trouble.
अब trouble दावत करो पर मुझे नहीं समझ आ रहा ना बहरहाल
Yeah. No, like there was this quote by Aristotle, and it said that moderation is the key to happiness. And I remember reading that, I think I was in A levels at that time, and I was like, "This is the rule I want to live by."
A-levels में क्या लिया था आपने
I actually did English language.
Okay.
I did business, psychology, and पता नहीं क्या था.
चार थे एक और
हाँ एक
come on,
और है ना
यार।
कौन सा है?
तो मुझे क्या sociology
Business था, psychology था.
economics सब लेते थे economics
English language ही था शायद.
नहीं इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज तो अब तीन हो गए ना लैंग्वेज लिटरेचर इंग्लिश लिटरेचर
No, I didn't like literature. That's
No.
weird, right?
यार I don't know
I
if
don't
it's
know
weird
why.
my sister was destroyed it I struggled at it लेकिन I liked it I enjoyed it
I just English language was all about like writing stories and
Yes.
poetry and stuff which I really really enjoyed, and I think like that was one class, by the way. The day I had English language Nixer, I loved Nixer.
yeah
Because that was like my it was my place, like
Yeah.
it was like yeah ye meri class hai
well
matlab,
let's just talk about that for a second na? So Nixer claimed to be this renaissance as far as this the initiation of the Renaissance as far as A-level schooling was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
All these extracurriculars, all this stuff. Why didn't you? Why weren't you able to kind of resonate with that? Just difficult times at home.
You know, I think there were quite a few things. Now that I look back, because उस time पे I was obviously very, you know.
You were a kid.
Yeah,
एक और चीज़.
I was a kid, and I think जब भी कोई चीज़ हो रही होती, you can't, you know, move above yourself and look at it from like another viewpoint. Now that I look back at it, I think it was also the group that I was with. You know, when there are a group of people who continuously also criticizing a place that you're at, you start mixing your opinion with, you know, their
Because
opinion.
you want to belong somewhere.
Yeah, and then you just go like, this place sucks. So there were always two kinds of people at Nixer: the Nixer lovers and then the Nixer haters.
Yeah.
I think I was part of the hate group.
Yeah.
So I think when you wake up every day and you go to the same place and you're like, yaar, ye rule, wo rule. बहुत ज़्यादा rules थे एक तो. It was a very very strict place in senses के इस straight line में नहीं चले तो फिर मतलब ये यहाँ जन्नत है यहाँ मतलब दोज़ख है. Yeah, so it was too intense for me sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
And I you know, like, I think I as a person just fit well in like small groups. Where I can, I think, just sort of be myself and
be comfortable.
Be comfortable. And you know, even in smaller schools, when I was in small school, like, you know, I was able to be popular and like मैं अपनी चीजें कर पाती थी or you know show करती थी. I think the more I moved from like in CAS, like had lesser opportunity to do that. I was like, oh यार मतलब और भी लोग हैं मुझसे अच्छे. तो Nixer में भी ये हुआ था that, you know, I think I went, like, I go into a shell sometimes and I feel like English class was where I was myself, and then there were other places or other things on campus where I couldn't really fit in or I couldn't feel like this is my thing.
Okay, cool.
And I couldn't participate in it, and maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it.
Sure.
Also
थोड़ी सी exclusion feel होती थी.
हाँ, and exclusion feel hoti thi, and just now, you know, like at that time I just didn't know a lot of people. Now I've graduated, everyone's like, वो याद तुम्हें ये हुआ था? And I'm like,
कौन?
but I think memory की भी issue है, because I feel like, you know, with me, I sort of like just you know, आपके साथ एक psychological कोई भी चीज़ हो रही होती है, so you sort of repress your memories.
Yeah, you trauma, yeah.
Yeah, so I do that a lot. Like, I've realized that that's something that, you know, I just do with relationships and memories. तो मैंने Malaysia को भी बहुत सारा time repress कर दिया है. Of bad relationships, I've repressed so many things that, you know, I only remember the good stuff and I don't remember the bad stuff.
That's not good.
Bad stuff at all.
That you shouldn't do.
Yeah, so, you know, it's very
lessons.
complicated, because I'm like, what? Like, I've forgotten names. I've forgotten names of places, because I just I think, like, you know, that was my way of dealing with like lots of trauma that happened in life.
Sure.
So I think Nixer के भी यही हुआ था कि now I just I don't remember the good times a lot.
यार मैं जो है ना, I think I would love to make that same excuse for myself. I think I'm just a horrible person who drinks a lot of energy drinks. That's why my memory is horrible. But trauma is absolutely a thing.
Yeah.
Legitimizing trauma is absolutely a thing. And understanding that your brain will try to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways it protects you is by letting you forget. One of the nicer ways, I think. भूल जाओ, नहीं हुआ.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. How much of your trauma though came up when you were writing? We've touched on it before. How much of it came up? Like, when I was writing my book, जिसकी अब मेरे पास copies भी नहीं है. Yeah, बस.
It's published.
It's published, yeah. It's called Stories from Karachi, and it's not in Karachi. Not only is it not available in Karachi,
No,
it's nowhere.
that's terrible.
It's horrible, right? कोई आप अगर किसी publisher को जानते हैं, कोई भी जानता है, मुझे बता.
I actually had to republish my book in Pakistan.
बस फिर साथ करते हैं.
मैंने कर दी, मैंने आगे की थी.
कैसे की? अच्छा, we'll talk after.
Yeah.
But so when I was writing, there were entire days where I'd remain angry.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, I'm pretty sure you were in CAS. जो याद है bomb blast हुआ था?
Yes.
Right? So I used to work at CAS.
Okay.
In the special needs department under Miss Aisha Jamal, legend, right?
I think I was a Nixer at that time जब bomb blast हुआ था.
Right, आप graduate हो गए थे, हाँ,
Yeah.
gap year लिया था मैंने. तो I was supposed to be in CAS that day, right? तो जो है और जो my office थी, it was completely destroyed. I was like, that was going to be me. You know?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when I was writing about it,
Yeah.
obviously all that stuff came back. You get hot flashes, you get angry, you start sweating, all those things. So obviously a lot of this stuff is about some serious stuff. You say the P word, which is obviously a taboo period. बहुत गलत बात होती है, नहीं बोलना होता है वो. And all those things, right? So tell me, like, is it there's definitely emotional labor involved. How is that though? Is it catharsis once you're done?
It is. I think if I don't put into words like we talked about before, like, I feel like I would blow up. It's always been writing, it's always been a positive feeling for me than negative. I think it was always कि पहले अगर anger आ रहा था तो जब लिख दिया तो you feel a release, right?
Okay.
And it's always been like that since I was a kid. Like मैं पहले diaries में बहुत ज़्यादा लिखती थी.
Sure.
So if like anything would happen at home, anybody would yell at me, I'd go up and go like, I hate papa.
नहीं.
Next day I hate mama. So like हमेशा से it was expressing on paper.
Sure.
And so I think like it's always been a positive feeling that I've associated with writing, but obviously like there have been instances when it's been very difficult to write a poem or been very difficult to write about a topic. So for example, I lost someone to suicide, and like my novel that I was working on, that I'm still working on currently, I had to stop that completely because for years I've never been able to get back to it. Because when it was about suicide itself, the novel, and when I was writing from research, and when that happened, I felt like I was too close to the whole subject, and I had to kind of just draw myself away from it. And so sometimes you don't realize little things that happen around you that really affect you very deeply. So when I was writing about that topic of suicide in my novel, there was a girl in Malaysia who was my senior who had committed suicide. And I didn't know her, but I had seen her. And I'm the sort of person, I don't know if that comes with being a writer or what, but I get very obsessive when something traumatic happens with someone close around me. तो अगर कोई बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट हुआ फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई ट्राई टू रिसर्च एंड फाइंड आउट कि मतलब कौन लोग थे जो अफेक्ट हुए, उनकी फैमिलीज क्या कह रही हैं. सो आई गो वेरी डीप इनटू स्टोरीज. And it's sort of it's not a good attribute at all, because
not for sanity.
Yeah, not for sanity. It kind of just it's very overwhelming.
Sure.
It kind of envelops you completely.
Sure.
And it's something that I've tried to draw myself away from and behave differently, but that's what happened at that time when I was in Malaysia. I didn't know her, but I'd seen her. I sort of went into this whole like phase where I was just like obsessed with finding out what happened. And I didn't understand my behavior at that time. And I was like, मैं ये क्यों कर रही हूँ? मैं ऐसे कुछ जानती नहीं थी. But I had a link with another person because I was dating this guy and he was sort of dating her before. So I was like,
Allah.
I was just in this like weird cycle where I just felt like I know her. And like I could relate to her, and I wanted to find out, and like so I would find her blogs that she used to write as well, and I used to read them, and I'd be like, ये क्या हुआ था? So that kind of stuck with me, and I didn't realize it stuck with me. Well, it was in Malaysia only when I had the idea that I want to write about effects of suicide, and I wanted to take that into a novel form. So I finally started writing that. I just submitted as my dissertation actually, and 5 chapter chapter थे I think. वो मैंने complete किया. उसके बाद I could never carry it on because when I was in University of Surrey, I was in the UK, the suicide happened, and this was closer. So this was someone I knew, and so that just sort of it kind of brought me to a stop because I realized that मैं तो रिसर्च से लिख रही थी. ये तो असली है. ये तो इसके तो मतलब लोग जो हैं वो असली हैं. मतलब मैं जानती हूँ लोगों को. It's that sort of a thing. And so I think when these kind of traumatic things happen, it's releasing to write about it, but it's also refreshing your memory of something that you don't want to remember.
Sure.
You don't want to talk about, or too many people are talking about it.
Sure.
So so it's a difficult process when something like that happens.
Because you're expecting yourself to jump into a wound that already is so
exactly
big,
that's already open. So sometimes it's too soon, right? And it gets too intense as well. So that's also what happens with writing, especially poetry. I feel is that whenever I write a poem, I'm very deep in it.
Yeah, of course.
So sometimes, like even Anna, for example, right now, I will never be able to perform Anna the same way that I performed it for the first time.
No.
And that's
No,
what
no,
spoken
no.
word poetry also does a lot, because when you write something very intense, you're so in that feeling at that time कि जब आप वो perform करते हो आप बिल्कुल एक different तरह से perform करते हो, and then if like so that happens a lot with like our performers. You go to a place, people request you कि वो वाली poem करेंगा, and you're like यार I don't feel it.
No.
Like I wrote a poem about my ex once.
Okay.
And it was a very hateful, angry, funny
But you're not
poem.
angry anymore.
I'm not angry anymore.
तो आप कैसे पढ़ोगे?
And like next time someone asked me, dude, I was like, I think like I don't care anymore. I
Yeah.
don't hate him anymore. अब मैं क्या करूँ? तो तो वही होता है कि when you're writing a poem, you're I think you're very in that intense moment, and I think sometimes it gets too intense for others to read as well.
Sure, of course.
This is a heavy book. I mean I've
नहीं मैं जो है एंड का कुछ पार्ट्स खोल दिए थे मैंने, वो थोड़ी सीरियस हो गए थे. लेकिन but about suicide, what you were saying, I think one of the other problems is, as a society, I don't know where this happened, but as a society, हमारा जो मुआशरा है, even our diasporic communities abroad, the religious imperative is so strong around something like that. Allah Ta'ala हम सबको अपने हिस्से-मान में रखे. It's a horrible thing to happen, but we often relegate it to just sin, and that's it. But what about the fallout? What
and
about
you
all
forget the human that was attached to that.
Yeah.
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 You forget that this was a real person that this
Yeah.
happened with.
Yeah.
आप किसको कह रहे हो कि ये hell जाएगा,
वो तो जाएगा,
and कि
चलो
उसकी
ठीक है.
family भी मतलब कि you just saying इसका तो जनाजा भी नहीं होना चाहिए,
But
and
we
stuff like that.
we failed that person.
Yeah, you're not, and you're not taking into accountability just the fact that what was all that he went through. You're
Sure.
taking all that away from him. You know what I mean? So you're just thinking about like, कितना बुरा किया इसने, but ये नहीं कि कितना बुरा हुआ इसके
कितनी
साथ.
तकलीफ में था, कितनी अजियत में
हाँ कि
था.
मतलब एक इंसान who decides to take his life, like what kind of a state of mind do you think that person is in? Just how you say someone is sick with cancer, the same way this person was sick,
Yes.
and he needed help.
Yes.
So so that's literally the same thing. We just don't see mental illness as anything that's as serious as being ill, and that's something that is very close to me, because I've suffered with anxiety and panic attacks, and to this day, people go like, हाँ बस सही है, बुरा mood है तुम्हारा, you're
बुरा
low.
mood है, ड्रामे कर रही हो.
Drama is such a big thing in our society कि मतलब मैं गाली आ रही है ड्रामा क्यों करूंगी मैं आज क्यों सोचूंगी.
I thought you were going to say something in English. आपने ये क्या कर दिया? ठीक है चलो.
But like literally I'm like मैं क्यों आज मैं सुबह उठकर ये ड्रामा क्यों करूंगी कि मैं पूरी रात नहीं सो पाई. मुझे आज क्या सोचा होगा कि मैंने कहा यार मैं आज ये ऐसे बोलती हूँ
अपने आप को.
ये मैं ऐसे ही करती हूँ, मैं सबको बताती हूँ. ये लाइक अगर मैं कह रही हूँ कि मैं थकी भी हूँ बहुत ज़्यादा, and like I was trying to sleep all night and I couldn't sleep, and like my heart felt like it was just that I'm going to die. That I basically kept having thoughts that I might die now. You telling me that I'm doing drama, it just kind of it just makes you feel so small, because at that moment you just feel like I'm so invalidated in this feeling that I'm so alone.
Sure.
That nobody else can understand what I was going through, that like it's kind of abnormal for me to feel this way.
It is. You feel alone and you feel isolated, and that just compounds everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I get very emotional about this. So I'm like,
as long as you're okay, I don't want you to be not okay.
No,
we can
it's
talk
fine.
about whatever. Yeah, it's yeah. देखो, conversations around mental health are not going to be pretty.
They're not, and
because
they
we are a
can't
horrible
be.
society. Because
Yeah.
but they are pretty in some societies जो थोड़ी ज़्यादा open होती हैं, जो थोड़ी ज़्यादा welcoming और warm होती हैं. हम वो नहीं हैं.
जो कहते हैं कि आप बात करो, हम solution ढूंढते हैं.
हाँ, सुनते हैं. ये जो
Yeah.
solution सुन लेते हैं आपकी बात. यहाँ पे सुनने की सकाफत कोई रखता नहीं है. तो they're not going to be pretty here. There's going to be lots of tears and snot, and it's going to look ugly, and that's all right, because it needs to.
Yeah.
Right? Because किसी ने सुनना नहीं है, and people need to wake up. Right? If we're going to continue to lose people like this, तो फिर we'll just lose everyone. No? We'll lose ourselves then. And I, for one, don't want that to happen.
No, of course
Inshallah,
not.
ऐसे नहीं.
Like, yeah.
Because how are you going to give up on your youth and stuff? Like, for instance, so we were all, me and my siblings, we were all dyslexic,
Okay.
right, to various degrees. Jo bhi hai. And even that, the way my mother was told, अब तो ये मतलब normal तो नहीं है. And my mom's just like, look at these people. They write all these essays. They do fine. Everything's good. What do you mean ये normal नहीं है? Then I don't want my kids to be normal.
Yeah.
ये ऐसे अच्छे हैं. because there was 4 of us, na?
Yeah.
And for the longest time, even now, if I read something, आप देखोगे, I get very close to the page because words fly off sometimes. That's what happens in dyslexia. And at a very young age, I was taught कि भाई ये चीज़ तो आपने 2 चीज़ें, पहली बात तो मर्द बनो, जाहिर है, और दूसरी चीज़ इस चीज़ को रिप्रेस कर लो, क्योंकि if something's wrong with you, the very natural evolution to that is कि someone's going to abuse you for it.
Yeah.
So at a very young age, there was this teacher who would hit me on the side of the head with a ruler. Which is cool, dude. Ruler टूट जाएगा, माशाल्लाह से बहुत सख्त है, कोई मसला नहीं है, मर्द हूं ना. लेकिन but think about it, अगर एक बच्चा नहीं पढ़ रहा है, पढ़ नहीं सक रहा है, you can tell the difference between someone who's being naughty and someone who actually can't read. आपको टीचर किसने बना
बनाया?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
you can see the frustration that's going through him.
Sure.
That helplessness of
Yeah.
like, you know, okay, I can relate to that because like my niece was recently struggling with that, and my sister was like, you know, the teachers could not point out. They just could not understand the first time, and my sister could recognize it, and she was like, she's trying.
Yeah.
I can see that she's trying.
Yeah.
It's not that she's कि मुझे नहीं पढ़ना. She's saying मुझे बहुत पढ़ना है, मुझसे नहीं हो रहा. So then, you know, and then she took her to another teacher, and she was great, and now she started doing phonics and stuff, and now she can start,
Beautiful.
she can read properly.
Because
you know?
वही वाली बात है ना, हम कराची में बैठे हुए हैं, कराची में there are some beautiful people doing some brilliant work.
Yeah.
वो भी यहीं पे है. तो या तो सब जाके सीख लो ना. Why then do you thrive in your own mediocrity like
Yeah.
this? Why then are you just like, नहीं हमने तो यही करना है, हमने दुकान खोली हुई है अपनी.
Same as like therapy, I feel like I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday, and it was like, I think this is still such a thing. I think especially with males and therapy, it's a very big taboo. यहाँ पे तो अब like in my social circle, every woman I know is going to therapy.
Cool.
सही है.
सही है.
And but when it comes to guys, especially going to
बहुत
therapy,
मुश्किल है.
it is such a, you have to push them to the max. And the thing is like, it's such a taboo, ek to, for a guy to tell another guy or tell anyone, for example, that I'm going to therapy. It's sort of like looked at as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
And then secondly, the feeling कि मैं mental नहीं हूँ भाई. And it's like, कौन कह रहा है?
कोई भी नहीं कह रहा है. ये वही वाली बात है ना. You don't have to be. पहली बात, किसी के साथ कोई, there's no problem with anyone. Just like I wear a size extra large and you might wear a size large. That's all it is. It's just different sizes. And second thing is, you don't have. There needs to be nothing wrong with you for you to go to therapy. It's a conversation.
Exactly. It's a
just
conversation.
Unpacking.
It's sort of just understanding the possibilities that you have, sort of unpacking in front of you and going like, oh, okay, now I can understand better.
Yeah. That's it.
And like, you know, like it's just it's very difficult like to be able to have and make people understand that.
Yeah.
Family से लेकर, friends to लेकर. Like when I started therapy, it was like 2016, and I'd come back from Malaysia.
Okay.
And it was a very like difficult time for me to fit back into Pakistan.
Sure.
So because I actually realized that when I moved abroad, and like friends who had stayed here, they hadn't grown up, and I came back and I was like, wait, you guys are making the same jokes that you were making in Excel.
मैं जो है क्या बताऊँ आपको. So me and मतलब my whole family, we moved from Hyderabad in 2008 or 9. Right. We kept up with some of the friends. We didn't keep up with a lot of them, as it happens. ठीक है, जो भी है. Then we moved to Karachi. From Karachi, we moved in 2012 or 13. We moved to Malaysia, and then 2015 moved to Canada. Alhamdulillah, lots of adventures, beautiful journey. Allah का बड़ा करम है. Come back. तो 2008 में जिन लोगों से हमने बात करना छोड़ी थी, 2019 में 11 साल हो गए. We go back, they're still stuck there.
Still, yeah.
और आपको उसी वक्त रियलाइज हो जाता है कि अल्लाह ताला का कितना बड़ा करम है आपके
Yeah.
ऊपर. You don't realize that.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
horror story. You go to them and immediately they're so quick to reject all of your experience, all of your heart.
नहीं
They're just
हाँ
like,
सही
हाँ नहीं, सही भी नहीं बोलते हैं कि यार हाँ देखो ना, I wish I had also gotten the chance to go abroad. Then I would have also written a book. नहीं, ऐसे नहीं
Everybody
होता है.
just doesn't. Yeah.
दावत में नहीं आए हुए हो आप, वहाँ पे
Yeah.
भी काम ही करना पड़ा था.
मेहनत करनी है हर जगह पे.
जी, तो it's just.
Yeah, no, I also like realized that like when I came back and I was like, oh my god, I was like, wait, like
So
मैं तो
where did
वापस
you-
आ गई हूँ.
so you had to get therapy. How did you approach it? Because बाहर बहुत एक normal चीज होती है ये. You search it up, you call them up, you go to them.
Yeah.
यहाँ पे you also have to, आपको नकाब पहन के जाना होता है, वो सब चीजें
Yeah.
अपनी शक्ल
So-
छुपानी होती हैं.
I did tell my parents.
Beautiful.
I told my mom. No, I actually went for the first session with my dad, but my parents knew basically. I didn't really tell anybody else. I didn't want to make it a big deal. And I don't remember उस वक्त मैंने क्या कहा था, but I think it was just that I'm struggling
And so I
to
need
fit
it.
back
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
And I just found a therapist through some recommendation of my dad's friend. Actually, some friend. I asked him that I said that I did. Oh, I do remember. I broke down in front of my parents and I said I really need help.
Yeah.
And they were like, they got scared and they were like, "Kya ho gaya?" And I was like, it's not that, I'm not like, but yeah, like I just feel like I'm not okay right now and I want to be okay.
Okay.
And I think I think that recognition is very, very important. That realization that I'm not feeling my best and I want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
A
Inshallah.
lot of people don't realize that. They go like, I'm not feeling good.
And it's all right.
बस अब नहीं है क्या कर सकते हैं बस यही है जिंदगी and it's like no, you have to realize that if you're at point B right now, you're at point A before you can walk towards that again.
You're worth the effort. I think one of the
And
biggest problems.
why not,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
तुम्हें हम बता रहे हैं कि आपके पास options हैं.
जी.
You're laying out those options. You have that privilege that you have those options, and you're not taking them just because you're like ego and weakness and like लोग क्या कहेंगे वाली चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. So yeah, I think I broke down from my parents and they were like, okay, let's find someone, and they did.
That's such a
and I
good
went.
reaction. Yeah, आपके वालिदैन शानदार है माशाल्लाह से.
Mashallah
Mine
se,
too. And that also is the biggest privilege, I think. is
Honestly, the
having
biggest, because I
understanding
can't
parents.
imagine that
Alhamdulillah.
what my life would be like. I mean, honestly, like I've met, like obviously we all have over years met so many people that we realize that having good parents is such a privilege, because
It's everything good.
honestly जिसकी माँ बाप सपोर्टिव नहीं होते उनकी पूरी जिंदगी का कोर्स ही चेंज हो जाता है.
खत्म हो जाते हैं ना.
Yeah.
आप सोचो ना, we know people that got married in Nixa.
Yeah.
In Nixa, where I couldn't even tie my own shoelaces. People are getting married. What are you doing?
I know husband and wife used to like package the school bags वो लाते थे. Like सर मैं पता नहीं कौन थे, याद नहीं. नाम तो मुझे किसी के पता ही नहीं होते वैसे भी.
Okay. Behral, so they took you to the thing, and did you ever get therapy abroad?
I did.
Okay, and how was the caliber? Did you like compare?
So honestly, like I preferred therapy here because as much as like globalization and all of that,
Yeah.
It's difficult talking to someone about your life as a Desi person and your
Yes.
experiences and the fear, because at that time I was in a place where I would have to go back to Pakistan and I did not want to go back.
Oh wow.
So I was in a place where I was constantly applying to places and I was fighting to stay in the UK and like just just this frustration, because it was like I feel like I'm at home. And
Here.
I'm in the UK.
In
And
UK,
I'm like, मैं मलेशिया छोड़ के आई थी, उस पर मुझे कितना go through करना पड़ा था fitting in again. Now I'm back in this place and I have to go back and I'm like, I just don't. It was like a struggle, a fight,
Yeah.
And I was in a really bad place at that time and I was like, I need help. But explaining that to a therapist who did not understand what Pakistan's like and why I'm fearing going
घर तो
back so
जाना
much.
मसला थोड़ी है.
Huh. And then me telling that my parents are amazing, go like, what's the problem then? So it was very difficult to explain that. I was like, it's not about my family and my home.
No.
It's more about my freedom as a person.
As a woman, yeah.
Yeah, as a woman, like I can't walk on my street
No, you can't.
outside.
No, it's impossible.
And I walk यहाँ पे हर जगह जा रही होती हूँ मैं on my own without telling anyone, without doing
आप सोचो
anything.
ना, ये सब चीजें
So,
जो हमने
yeah.
सीखी हैं, जो हम देख के आए हैं, me and my brother, मद्देनजर रखते हुए, we still tell our sisters कि आप बाहर नहीं जा सकती फिर भी, right?
And it's not because of के मैं तुम्हें restrict कर रहा हूँ. It's like because
This is
I know
Pakistan.
what's going to happen when you
Exactly.
step outside, and that's a really big fear. That's a fear that I feel like as a parent is also so much, because even when my parents were giving me the liberty to do things, I can imagine how fearful it was
Yeah.
for them to let me go.
Yeah.
Because
मैं आपको बताता हूँ, निक्सर में जब मैं होता था तो मेरा कर्फ्यू होता था. I'm a guy, right?
Yeah.
मैं कर्फ्यू होता था 9 बजे घर, right? वही मम्मी वही बाबा, the minute we touched down in Malaysia, 12-1 बजे भी अगर मैं घर आता था, सिर्फ पूछते थे बेटा आप ठीक हो, because they were like, it's not that we don't trust you to be a morally
it's like we
decent
don't-
person.
Yeah.
It's the world,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Canada same thing. Grew older, but my mom and my dad, they were never like, beta is time pe ghar pahunchana. They'd just be like, keep checking in, right? Keep telling us what's up,
Yeah.
but and just be safe, be
That's
good.
it, yeah.
Bas, it's just, I love Karachi, But Karachi is a very dangerous place.
It is.
Right? And it's
There's
unfortunate.
no denying that,
No, and
na,
it's
matlab.
unfortunate that it is, na, yaar,
Yeah.
because for all the wrong matlab, kya hai? I
Or
don't
kyun
know.
hai?
I don't
Matlab,
know.
like, it's just.
I don't
So
know.
it is very, like, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you just said about stepping out and, like, the liberty and a thing. And I think that's also something that a lot of feminists confuse also in Pakistan, because wohi baat aa jati hai na, of, like, what you're wearing and where you're going and why am I not allowed this. Sometimes it's not about just the fact that, you know, I have the equal right of being
No.
who I want to be. I completely agree with that, but I can't.
No.
It's about my life. It's about my security.
Reality. It's about reality, yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
you fight for it,
Sure.
but there's a lot to change before you fight for that.
Yes.
There's more than just changing what people think. It's about it's the whole country. Like, it's it's your entire safety, you know.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting that you said that. I think आखिर में ना एक चीज़ जो बहुत लाजमी है इस गुफ्तगू में वो यही है जो आपने बोला कि you have to understand, are we having a conversation about academics? Because then academically speaking आपका जिस्म आपकी मर्जी.
Yeah.
मैं कुछ भी नहीं बोल सकता हूँ. Even to my wife, like I can suggest कि यार ये ना करो, लेकिन really she's an individual person.
Yeah.
Now when you add all these other vectors of this being Pakistan, of there being cases of women being attacked
Even when they were in burqa.
in burqa,
Yeah.
सिर्फ उनकी ankle नजर आई थी while their husband was right there.
And what about kids?
What about kids? What about kids?
What about kids?
What
That
about kids?
That's always my argument about anything. When anyone says कि क्या पहनी थी and stuff, it's like, what about kids?
What about kids?
What about boys, little
Yeah.
boys?
Yeah.
Like, what are you even like? There's no argument, no.
There's no argument. तो उसमें
So,
जो है
yeah.
आखिर में यही आपको मद्देनजर. Okay, just so we can wrap this up in a something that's a little less heavy.
Yeah.
Right? but still heavy, but not as heavy as what
Yeah.
we're talking about. Recently, I had a friend of mine. उनका पहली दफा फोन चोरी हुआ. अल्लाह रहम करे, अल्लाह करे किसी के साथ ना हो. Just the indignation, the frustration, the anger, the rage, the bitterness. It's just horrible, right? I had another friend. Sumer bhai recently started his YouTube channel after मतलब कोई 3-4 महीने से वो स्टार्ट हो रहा था, लेकिन अब वो स्टार्ट हो गया अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. अब सब सही हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह. Lives in Lihari.
Okay.
Right? So you need to understand that he lives in a different reality than we do in DHA or wherever else, right? अब वो मेरे से बात कर रहे हैं and I'm just crestfallen. I'm like, yeah, this guy, he lost his phone, ये वो. And Sumer bhai goes, Kazi bhai, you have to behave like you're in Karachi.
Yeah.
You're not in Kuala Lumpur, you're not in Canada or Toronto. And so I feel like a lot of these conversations, they miss the point. The point isn't about whether I'm right or I have the answer or you're right and you definitely have
And
the
what's
answer.
my right? Like, I already know what my right is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know when my right is that I can walk on the street
But they don't
and that
care.
I can wear whatever I want.
Yeah.
But is anybody else caring about that? Is anyone
Exactly.
else, like, you know?
उसमें वही वाली बात है कि they should. Yeah, they should will not help you when they come to
Yeah,
attack you.
Yeah.
That's
Me
all.
just thinking, नहीं इसको care करना चाहिए. They should is not changing the fact that what is real, what's happening in front of you.
They're riding, speeding towards you with guns and stuff.
Yeah.
We will read one more time because I want to at least get through this page, na? And uske baad we will end this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, good.
All right, cool. I'm मतलब writer आपको पता है माशाल्लाह से. Anyways. Anna, you wonder how you can still sound different when you have soaked and baptized yourself in the history of your rulers. Baptized because they were Christian. I see you. You remain an import brought in to learn more from those certified with knowledge to impart. Certified. Anna, you often forget the difference between you and your friends until you have a form to fill in which 10 extra questions specific to you. Beautiful. Annum, this has been wonderful.
Thank you.
I hope you keep doing your wonderful work. I really hope you continue writing that novel whenever you feel
hope
ready.
so too,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
whenever you feel ready. Allah Ta'ala aapko kamyab karega inshallah. Any final shout outs to anyone?
I didn't know मुझे ये करना है.
नहीं, I mean, you don't. I mean, ये recording तो वैसे भी हो रही है. अब तो ये भी record हो गया.
Honestly, like, shout out just to my best friends, like
Okay.
Zoha and Mariam.
Zoha and
Like,
Mariam.
I think these people really, like, always encouraged me to do
Yes,
everything, and
which
I'm
is
very
important.
and I'm very myself with them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's it.
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Yes, I'm on Instagram. I write there daily, almost daily. नहीं होता कभी-कभार, but it's called @writeraholic, like
Writeraholic.
workaholic.
Like workaholic only for writers.
Yeah, yeah.
हम समझदार लोग हैं माशाल्लाह से.
Yeah.
Facebook नहीं है, YouTube नहीं है.
I have a YouTube as well. Yeah, I upload all my spoken word poems there.
What's it
So
called?
it's called Annum Salman. Yeah,
Annum
it's
Salman.
by-
All right, wonderful. This has been fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's been really good.
Yeah.
बोल ही नहीं पा रही अब.
नहीं कोई बात नहीं because बस मैंने तो monster भी है ना. Let's have you on when you're done writing your novel, inshallah, which will be in the next few months. अल्लाह के
Oh,
हुक्म से बस हो
wow.
जाएगा. हो जाएगा बस देखें.
Yeah,
हो जाएगा. Hostile
inshallah.
positivity, inshallah. Annum Salman, Kazi Akbar. Assalamu alaikum.